Hello, my name is Professor John Benjamin. This is West Virginia Wesleyan College, and this class is web design. And today we'll be talking about promoting and maintaining the website. So we've talked about the web design process, and we've talked a little bit about publishing and maintenance in one of the earlier slideshows. But now we're just going to get into that in a little more detail. So remember, there are 6 steps to the general web design process. You, as a web designer, you'll probably tailor this and modify it to make it more suitable to your own personal process. But all of the web design processes follow these basic steps. So again, first of all, what's the purpose and who's your audience? What are the goals, objectives, and who is the target audience? And then once you've established that, then you can start developing, well, what's the general content that's going to be on all the different pages? So then you can see how that content is going to be divided up. That's where you come up with the structure. Is it linear or hierarchical? And once you've got the structure, then you know how to work the navigation, probably one of the most important steps. But you need all of that information before you even get to the navigation. And then you're ready to start doing your visual design. First, your wireframing. Again, you've got all your information, but where is it going to go on each page? And then your mock-ups. Then your client approves the mock-up, and then you can start coding and building your website. Steps 1 through 5 are a ton of work before you actually get in there and start coding, because coding is so hard, it's so vast and complicated. You want to have all your ducks in a row before you start getting in there and doing it. And then once you've got the website built, you've got to publish it and you've got to maintain it, and then you've got to market it. All right, so let's talk about the testing phase. All right, so website testing. So there's 2 types of testing, but in general though, we have to ask those basic questions. We got to go back to those 6 steps. Does the website meet its goals and objectives? And hopefully all that's done, but you can still do some tweaking at this point. Again, it's all built, but you kind of can go back and be like, okay, well, is this really meeting those objectives? Does the design and the functionality incorporate user experience principles? Have I met all the accessibility standards? And have I incorporated RWD standards? So some basic general ones that you want to first go ahead and identify. And then you're going to do your internal testing. So this is just people on the web design team that are actually working on the website. So you got to go and make sure all the multimedia is working, that the nav goes everywhere it's supposed to. There's no broken links. That's really critical. No links go to the wrong pages. Stay in the same tab. Are you meeting all the web accessibility initiative guidelines? Is everything being, all your images, are they really well optimized? Everything's RWD, and you're going to correct all these problems. So this is your first step, testing 1, internal testing. Next, you're going to do the second stage of testing. Once you've got all those kinks worked out, you're going to do the target audience test. And you're going to ask them to look for any other problems that you and your team have missed. But really what you want to ask at this point is how are they interacting with the website? And are those goals being accomplished? Which pages appealed? Which pages were disinteresting? How much time did they spend on various pages? And typically a testing lab will have a lot of this on there that'll break it down, break all the data down into the time they spent, and maybe do some heat maps and things like that. And which links do they visit? Which ones do they ignore? How easily were they able to navigate the website, or did they get frustrated? Yeah, again, and at any point, do they demonstrate any confusion or frustration? So then you're going to go back to the drawing board and work out these bigger issues. Typically, you can ask them to do a UX survey. You can find these online. There's templates that you can use. And again, this is where you're getting even more detail. These are going to ask those questions. Does this satisfy the target audience's wants, needs, and expectations? Was the content interesting and valuable? Do you have to go back and tweak your copy? Again, navigation. Was it easy or difficult to navigate? And then you consider all that feedback, and then you come up with a plan to implement. All right, and so then you're ready to publish. So before you're ready to publish, you need to get a server to put your stuff on, and then acquire a domain name. So in our class, up until this point, your domain name is just 000 web host and then whatever you called it. So that's not a real domain name. You have to purchase that. Like for instance, johnsveggieburgers.com. And so usually your hosting service will have a link to a domain name service provider. And so in addition to your regular web service, which can cost anywhere from like $3 to $20 per month, you have to purchase your domain name, which can cost anywhere from $20 to $50 per year. And so that's something that you own, and then every year, if you're still continuing with that website, you've got to keep re-upping that contract. And so then you're ready to upload your files. So you've got all your files on your computer, and just like we've been doing in Dreamweaver, you're going to put them all onto the server. Now, typically, most hosting services have a testing server and then the actual remote server. And so the testing server you can use to do all your testing on, and then you can migrate those over when you're ready. So domain names, just some good rules. You want anything to sound or be as close to your business name as you can. Abbreviations and hyphens should be avoided, although sometimes they can't. But people typically, if you say it's, johnsveggieburgers.com versus John's Veggie Burgers in a hyphen, or John's Veggie hyphen burgers, you got to say that whole word hyphen. It just breaks up the whole way that we remember what you just said and try to spell it out. So really try to avoid those. You want to purchase as many TLDs, top-level domains, as possible, so that way, you can purchase different ones that are similar in case someone there's a common type error, or there's a certain way that they hear it and they type it wrong. Or you can also purchase, again, .com, .org, and different top-level domains, so that way people, if they don't remember the TLD, then they'll hit the right ones. You can buy a bunch of them. And just try to use an accredited registrar, somebody that's just reputable. Here, like for instance, GoDaddy, they do domain names and hosting service, and so they'll help you walk through this. Fitforyou.training, fitforyou.io.shop, and you can buy as many as you want, or just one. And then you've got to test out your hosting service. You've got to pick one that fulfills all of the needs of your website. Again, is it a really big, complicated website or a small one? And there's free ones, obviously, like 000 Web Host, but most are going to be for pay. And so then you have to decide on how big and important your website is. There's dedicated, shared, and cloud-based. So dedicated web servers, that means the whole server is just for you. So it's really super expensive, and for really, really big companies. So then there's shared web servers that host multiple websites. That's typical. But then there's a virtual private server where just a section of that is dedicated to your site. And then there's cloud-based servers that offer virtual storage that you can interact through your browser. And then you got to choose your hosting service. So again, you just ask yourself, what are all your needs and limits? You ask yourself, do some research. Is there a lot of outages? How's the technical support? And are there any security breaches? So if it's a big, important website, you really want to do your research. And then you're going to upload. You're going to first go through your files. Is there anything extra in there that you don't need, just to save space? So that'll save your money and the efficiency of. And so then you have to have an FTP client. So in Dreamweaver, it has an FTP embedded, but you can use Smart FTP or FileZilla. Let's say again, you're hand doing this, or you're not using a developer tool, and you just have to take your files and then they're on your computer, and FTP just migrates them over to the server. And here's an example of one right here, Smart FTP. And so on this side, here's your files on your computer, and then you're just going to move them over to the web server. So again, you can use a web design tool like Dreamweaver, Copycut, Microsoft Expression Web, to try to help facilitate all of these complicated elements. And then there's content management systems like Wix and Weebly and Squarespace and WordPress, and they've got WYSIWYGs, so you can just drag and drop and type almost like a typewriter into those. Now, but it is important to remember as a web developer, with the exception of WordPress, all of these are really insecure, but most of them you can't just have any advanced elements that need or require database management. WordPress can a little bit, but it's really iffy. I wouldn't recommend it. So that's just when you're choosing any of these sort of content management systems, just know that they're very limited. And then probably, well, all these steps are important, but then you've got to promote the website. So we've done all of this work. It's perfect. Your target audience loves it. And you've got all the kinks worked out. You got it on the server. You've got your domain name. Everybody can look at it if they want to, but nobody knows it's there. So we've got to do some promotion. And so you want to reach out to your target audience. Usually you work with your marketing staff or marketing professionals at this point. You can use online and offline promotional techniques. Usually a combination of two is best. And then you want to get maximum search tool exposure. So you want to consider purchasing ads to do this. Social media is really great, and you can create your own ad and promote it via social media, but geo-targeting is really what you want to do. Facebook has a really great geo-targeting tool set where you can really be specific, but there's also other services that help you geo-target, very specific areas where, regions where your users live. Again, basic social media is easy and it's free for the most part. Sharing updates, inviting customers to events. Having events is really great. Having a blog is good. Continually updated new information. Having events is great because then you can promote those through social media and that brings in more traffic. Asking for feedback, so you can send out a little, like a Survey Monkey. And then, of course, targeted ads. And like I said, Facebook has a really pretty inexpensive tool that works really well. But then you might want to also try services that will kind of blast your ad out onto a variety of social media outlets. And here's a bunch of different social media outlets that you can try. Again, think about your audience. Who are they? You've already done this research, so then where are they most likely going to be? Are they Pinterest, LinkedIn, Facebook, and whatnot? So now we have to really consider SEO. So typically, you might hire an SEO consultant. Or most larger web design firms will have their own search engine optimization staff or dedicated person. And so things you want to just make sure right off the bat, including your meta tags. So those go up in the head. Those are descriptive information that search engines look for. Your page titles, and they automatically default to untitled, so you want to have very clear page titles. Clearly worded text and headings. Headings are really key, and the higher the heading, the more important. So be really, really, but also be more specific as you go down. So having really clear headings and keyword stuffing. So add keywords, search terms that people you think that they would search for, and add those into your head as well on each page. Website content audit tools. So there are some free options and there's a lot of paid options, and there's also groups that will really do a real audit for you, a full audit. But there's a lot of really great simple tools online, and a lot of them are free for your first time, and they'll give you your SEO rundown and so what you need to fix to increase it. But typically you want to consider hiring an expert. Google AdWords and Bing ads are really great. These are typically pay-per-click, so you have to do, some financial preparation to make sure that this is suited to your financial situation and whatnot. But that they work really well depending on what your product is or service. And here's an example of a banner ad. These are really common on websites. Usually there's a click-through rate, and you can analyze that with analytics. A lot of times they allow GIF animations. There are rich media ads. It all depends on the publisher and what they offer. Most do not, but many do, and you just have to meet their standards and their specifications. Of course, there's ads for just a lot of everything. Always think about your target audience. Do they play a lot of games on apps, on phones? Where is going to be the best outlet to find, to interact, to show your audience about your new product or service or your new website? In video ads on YouTube. So you've got to do all that analysis, and your marketing professionals will, of course, guide you through this in the marketing department. You can also consider using an advertising network. So this is a paid service that'll help you match you up with your best with the best publishers, so you're not sort of shooting in the dark, so to speak. And then you always want to really consider all kinds of the whole spectrum. So online, promotion and offline. So word of mouth is really important. Just talking about it with friends and family and at gatherings and at meetings. Um, Printed materials, again, have the URL, QR codes on the printed materials, get those out there, and then of course promotional giveaways are great. Then, now it's out there, everyone's looking at it, you've got to make sure your content is always relevant, up to date, and your website's always working. Things do break, it's technology. So you have to have a plan and staff to make sure that the website is going to be maintained, it's going to be looked after, and its content is going to be constantly updated. And that's just the expectation we have for the web. We do have different expectations for different types of media, but for the web, everyone expects it to be timely and up to date. So, so you got to always add and promote timely content, things that are current, include new calls to action. Again, you need things to be changing. There's to be a reason to come back. If people keep coming back and everything's exactly the same, then they're going to stop coming. And constantly maintain your navigation system, make sure it's up to date and functional. Always check your analytics and make sure that, again, where's traffic going? Do we need to reorient things to drive traffic to a different part of the website? And then you're just going to always evaluate and implement new technologies to staying up to date. A lot of things like widgets and technology will change and go out of date. Like Flash, for instance. You might have an old Flash game on there. Well, guess what? Very few devices can read that now. So always staying up to date and evaluating the latest technologies. And then there's just, again, constant retesting and updating, ensuring you've got the most current HTML file, back up your originals, constantly just doing edits and previews. Just need to just set a whole plan for all of this. And then just evaluating your performance, working with marketing to check your analytics and just make sure that everything's following along with the plan that you've laid out. So when you're looking at your web analytics, again, Google Analytics is really going to be your best bet. You want to know device types. You just want to follow these patterns. Social media sharing, tracking cookies, page tagging, sales data. You just want to, this is all the different aspects that you want to track in your analytics. And you want to also see about, and this all goes into your whole, your marketing plan. How many unique visitors, repeat visitors, how many page views, and what's your conversion rate on shopping versus advertising, and what's your overall profit. And then there's benchmarking, which can be done every 6 months or annually. This involves using a defined standard to measure the overall performance and also some specific aspects of the website. And so are you meeting these benchmarks? And you're constantly setting a benchmark, and you're going to just kind of constantly try to meet it and then reevaluate every so often. All right, and then that's it. Then your website's off, and you've got a plan, and it's gonna do great things. So good luck.